There is a war happening right now, at this exact moment, and you are not winning. Not because the enemy is stronger, but because you have not even realized the enemy is you. Let me be direct. The way you spend your day, the choices you make every hour, the impulses you follow without thinking, all of it is a reflection of one single thing: how much control you have over yourself. And if I am being honest with you, most people have practically zero. You wake up, you grab your phone, you scroll the feed, you lose 2 hours. Then you try to study and cannot focus. Then you try to work and procrastinate. Then you try not to eat junk and eat it anyway. Then you try to sleep early and you are awake until 3 in the morning staring at a screen. You are in constant war against yourself and you are losing every single battle. Small battles, but losing. And the worst part is, you know it. You feel it. Every time you give in to an impulse, you know you are weakening yourself. Every time you choose easy instead of hard, you feel a small piece of you dying. Your self-respect dropping, your confidence diminishing. And you keep doing it because you do not understand why it is so hard to stop. But I am going to show you exactly why and how to reverse it. The system that was built for you to fail. You know why it is getting harder to control yourself? It is not weakness on your part. You are being attacked neurologically every single day. Your brain has been hacked. Literally. Open your phone right now. That social media app you tell yourself you will look at for just 2 minutes. You know what is behind that interface? Hundreds of engineers and neuroscientists working to make it as addictive as possible. They do not want you to leave. They need you to stay. Because you are the product. And here is the trick most people never understand. Every time you get a notification, a like, a comment, your brain releases dopamine. But it is not just any dopamine. It is dopamine in quick, easy, predictable doses. Your brain recalibrates. It starts expecting that spike. And when it does not come, you feel empty, anxious, purposeless. So you come back because you need that spike again. Charles Duhigg explains this perfectly in The Power of Habit. Every habit has a structure, a trigger, a behavior, a reward. When the reward is strong and fast, the habit sticks. And you are being trained like a laboratory rat. The difference is the rat has no choice. You do. But you stopped exercising it. And when you stop exercising your ability to resist an impulse, that ability weakens. It is like a muscle. If you do not train it, it atrophies. If you spend years giving in to every stimulus that appears, your self-control muscle turns to dust. So when it is time to study, to work, to do something difficult, your brain cannot. Because that quick dopamine spike is far more attractive, and you are too weak to resist. The mistake the ancients understood that we forgot. Plato knew this. 2,400 years ago, he wrote something that sounds like it was written yesterday. When a man spends his life chasing immediate pleasure, when he chooses comfort over challenge, he weakens not just the body, but something much deeper. The ability to think, the ability to reflect, the ability to question. Plato called it the death of the soul. And he was right. Because when you cannot even sit in silence for 5 minutes without grabbing your phone, when you cannot study for 2 hours without checking notifications, when you cannot do anything that requires sustained effort, you are not a person. You are an automaton, responding to stimuli, addicted, controlled. Seneca, one of the richest men in Rome, understood this so well that he practiced something radical. Periodically, he would sleep on the floor, eat the simplest food, wear old clothes, not because he had to, but because he wanted to maintain mastery over himself. He wrote something brutal: set aside a few days to eat poorly, dress simply, sleep on a hard bed. Then ask yourself, is this what I feared losing? Seneca's idea was genius. When you train your mind to tolerate voluntary discomfort, the involuntary discomfort life brings becomes much easier. You create an internal reserve, an emotional cushion. But we did the opposite. We have invested our entire lives pursuing maximum comfort. Technology that makes us more comfortable. Apps that make us more comfortable. Food that makes us more comfortable. And when life inevitably brings us discomfort, we break, because we never trained to handle anything. Marcus Aurelius, perhaps the most powerful man who ever lived, woke up early every day and wrote in his journal, not for the world, for himself. He questioned his own reactions. He held himself accountable. He tested himself, because he knew the real battlefield was not on the frontiers of his empire, it was inside his own head. And that battle he fought every single day, the experiment that proves all of this. In the 1960s, a psychologist named Walter Mischel did an experiment that changed the history of psychology. He took children 4 and 5 years old, put each one alone in a room, placed a marshmallow in front of them, and made a simple offer. You can eat this marshmallow now, or you can wait 15 minutes. If you wait, I will give you 2. For a 4-year-old child with candy in front of them, it is torture. And what happened was fascinating. Some children ate it immediately. Others tried to wait, but could not. And some managed to wait the full 15 minutes. But here is the part that really matters. Mischel followed these children for decades, and he discovered something nobody expected. The children who could wait, the ones with self-control, got better grades in school, earned higher salaries as adults, had more stable relationships, less obesity, fewer problems with addiction, less depression, less anxiety. The children who ate the marshmallow immediately had the opposite in almost everything, and you know what that proves? That the ability to resist immediate pleasure in the name of something greater in the future is not just important. It is the single most determining factor of a person's life, more important than intelligence, more important than talent, more important than luck, and it is exactly what we are losing. Because we live in a culture built on instant reward. Everything is fast, everything is easy, everything is now. And when an entire generation grows up in that logic, they lose something fundamental. The tolerance for prolonged effort, the capacity to endure the discomfort of a process that takes time. To study something for months without seeing results. To build something for years without guarantee of success. To persist when everything inside you is screaming to quit. How we rebuild mastery over ourselves. The first thing you need to understand is that this is not about willpower. It is not about being disciplined. This is far more neurobiological than that. When you give in to an impulse, you are reinforcing a neural pathway. You are literally changing the physical structure of your brain, making it easier to give in next time and harder to resist. When you resist an impulse, you are doing the opposite. You are strengthening the circuits of self-control. You are training your brain to be stronger, but it takes time. Because neuroplasticity does not happen overnight. It takes weeks, months, years, and that is why most people quit. Because they want results fast, just like they want everything fast. The second thing is understanding that there is a space between the stimulus and the response. Viktor Frankl, who survived Nazi concentration camps, said something that seems simple but is revolutionary. Between the stimulus and the response, there is a space. In that space resides our freedom and our power to choose our response. Every time you feel the urge to give in to an impulse, that space exists. You might not perceive it. It passes so fast, but it is there. And when you start training your awareness of that space, everything changes. You feel the urge to open your phone. There is a space. You can choose. You feel the urge to eat junk. There is a space. You can choose. You feel the urge to respond in anger. There is a space. You can choose. Most people do not even realize that space exists. They pass right through, react automatically. Addicted, But if you train your awareness of that space, you reclaim your freedom. And freedom is what really matters. The third thing is that you need a real reason to suffer. Because suffering is what self-control requires. It is uncomfortable, it is hard, and nobody does something hard and uncomfortable without a reason. Seneca said that a ship without a destination never finds a favorable wind. If you do not have a clear purpose, any distraction drags you. Any obstacle knocks you down, because you have no reason to endure. But when you know why you are doing what you do, when you have a real reason to wake up, when you know exactly where you are going, discomfort gains meaning, and discomfort with meaning is bearable. Discomfort without meaning is torture. And finally, patience, but not the patience of sitting around doing nothing. It is the patience of the farmer who plants, waters, tends, and waits. He does not pull the plant upward to make it grow faster. He knows that everything has its rhythm, its time, its season. Marcus Aurelius wrote that in spring, not everything blooms at the same time. And that is the truth nobody wants to hear. Because we live in a culture of speed, of urgency, of now. And the sick hurry to have everything now is the greatest enemy of real growth. The real scenario of your day. Let me be brutally honest with you about what is happening. You woke up today, you opened your phone, you scrolled the feed, you lost an hour, maybe two. You tried to do something important and could not, because your brain cannot focus anymore, because it was destabilized by quick stimuli. Then you tried to act like nothing was wrong, like it was normal, like millions of other people were not exactly in the same situation, all failing, all weak, all losing the war against themselves. And you know what the worst part is? You could stop. Now, today, right now. You could turn off the phone. You could train your mind. You could reclaim control. You could become the person you know you could be. But you do not, because it is easier to stay as you are, because it is more comfortable, because everyone is doing the same thing, so it must be right, wrong. Most people are losing. And you do not want to be most people. You want to be the exception. But to be the exception, you have to do what most people do not do. You have to suffer what most people do not suffer. You have to resist what most people give in to. You have to win against yourself. The truth nobody wants to say. The modern world was built to weaken you, to give you easy pleasure, to steal your capacity to endure what is difficult. And when you lose that capacity, you lose everything. You lose focus, you lose direction, you lose self-respect. And self-respect is what really matters, because when you respect yourself, you protect yourself. You do not do things that diminish you. You do not waste time with people who do not deserve you. You do not give in to impulses that weaken you. You do not accept less than you know you deserve. But when you do not respect yourself, when you have lost to yourself again and again, when giving in became a habit, you are defenseless. Against anything, against anyone, and that is exactly what most people are, defenseless. But the good news is that this can be reversed. The ancients showed the way. Plato, Seneca, Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus. They all went through this same struggle. They all questioned themselves. They all held themselves accountable. They all trained themselves. And they all discovered that the greatest war of your life is not against the world, not against circumstances, not against other people. It is against yourself. And every single day that you win that war, even in the small things, you become a little bit stronger, a little bit freer, a little bit closer to the person you have the potential to be. The question is not whether life will be difficult. It will be. Life is difficult. The question is, when it is, will you be ready? Will you have trained? Will you have reclaimed mastery over yourself? Will you have done the internal work that nobody else is willing to do? Most people do not. And that is why most people fail. You do not want to be most people. So start now. Today. This moment. Turn off your phone. Feel the discomfort. Train patience. Reclaim self-respect. Because true freedom is not in doing what you want. True freedom is in not doing what you want when you know it weakens you. That is the real truth. The exercise that changes everything right now. Let me give you an exercise you can do right now, not later, now. Because reading without action is just entertainment. And you are not here to be entertained. You are here to change. Open your phone. That app you know consumes your hours. That app you know makes you weak. Think about how many hours per day you spend there. Be honest. 3 hours, 5, 10. Now multiply by 7. Do you want to know how much time you wasted in a week? Do you want to know how much time you stole from yourself in a month? In a year, you can do the math later. But right now, in this moment, I want you to do something radical. Disable all notifications, every single one. Put your phone in another room and spend the next 2 hours without touching it, without even looking at it. You are going to feel anxious. You are going to feel like something is missing. You are going to want to go back. And that discomfort you are going to feel, that is your brain recalibrating. That is your self-control muscle being trained. It is not suffering. It is growth. Do this today, and tomorrow, and the day after. In 1 week, you will already feel the difference. In 1 month, you will be a different person. Because you finally reclaimed mastery over yourself. Why you need to do this? Not because of motivation. The era of doing things because you feel inspired has passed. Motivation is weak. Motivation is for amateurs. You need to do this because you understood reality. The reality is that you have a limited amount of attention, of energy, of time, and you are wasting it on things that do not matter, things that make you weaker, things that distance you from the person you could be. And every day that passes, you have aged 1 day. You have lost opportunities. You have failed to learn something. You have failed to grow. Seneca wrote that it is time to understand that life is short. Not because you will die tomorrow, but because the amount of quality time you really have is much smaller than you think, and you are spending it on things that do not matter. So the real question you need to ask yourself is, how do I want to spend the years I have left? Losing myself in social media, responding to impulses I did not choose, being weak and hoping something changes? Or do I want to reclaim mastery over myself, do the hard work, endure the discomfort, and become the person I am capable of being? It is not a small question. It is the question, because your answer determines everything. The truth about who you really are. You are not weak by nature. You became weak by choice. Repeated, day after day. Impulse after impulse, but that means you can also become strong. By choice, repeated, day after day, resistance after resistance. You were not born being someone who thinks small, who procrastinates, who gives in to every impulse. You were trained by culture, by algorithms, by people around you who are also losing, but you can be retrained. You can reclaim mastery. You can become someone you can trust again. Someone who respects themselves, someone who does what they say they will do, someone who does not deceive themselves. And when you reach that place, everything changes. Not just your external life, your internal life, your relationship with yourself, your self-respect. You regain real power. Neurobiological, practical, let me be clear. This is not easy. If it were, everyone would do it. If it were, you already would have. But you have not, because it is hard. Because it requires you to feel discomfort now in the name of something you will only truly understand in a few months. And most people cannot handle that. Because we live in a culture of instant gratification, of immediate results, of now. But you are not most people. Or you do not want to be, because if you were, you would be satisfied with your life. And you are not. Because you feel that you could be more, do more, be more, and that intuition is correct. You could be far more, but only if you reclaim mastery over yourself, only if you win the war against yourself. The next steps. First, drop a like on this video, because if this made sense to you, it means you are ready, and I need to know you are ready. Second, comment here the exercise you are going to do. Which impulse are you going to resist? Which discomfort are you going to train? Be specific, because when you write it, you commit. And commitment is the beginning of change. Third, subscribe to the channel, because we are going to go deep into all of this in the upcoming videos. We are going to explore how to rebuild discipline, how to create routines that work, how to train your brain to be under your control. We are going far beyond this introduction, and if you want the complete protocols, the detailed exercises, the specific neurobiological trainings to reclaim mastery over yourself, if you want a community of people fighting this same battle, if you want real acceleration, the doors are open. Find the community that aligns with your journey, because there, it is not just content, it is structure. It is community. It is accountability. It is what you really need to change. The phrase that summarizes everything. In the end, the truth is simple, but simple does not mean easy. The man who cannot defeat himself will never defeat his circumstances. And you already know this. You have always known. You were just waiting for someone to confirm that you are not crazy, that this intuition you have about losing to yourself is real. That it is not your weakness. It is that the system was built for you to fail. But now you know. And knowledge without action is useless. So the question is, what are you going to do from this point forward? Because now is when it starts. Now is when you decide. Now is when you win the first battle. And that first battle, that small victory against an impulse you resisted, that is the one that defines everything. Because from that point on, you know that you can. And when you know you can, everything changes. So start now, today, this moment. Turn off your phone, breathe, stay with the discomfort, train the muscle. Because true freedom begins when you stop being a slave to yourself, and that only happens when you win against yourself. Drop a comment, I will reclaim myself. Because that is your declaration, right now, that you are done losing, that the war ends today. This is the Stoic equilibrium. Reason as a way of life, virtue as strength, discipline as the path. See you in the next video.